Overtime!
Okay guys, this is it, my most requested video of all time. People are always asking me where to find great deals on classic arcade games. They see me picking up complete games for 100, 200 bucks, sometimes even free, and they tell me that all they ever see in their local area is overpriced junk that nobody wants. Well, it's time for me to finally spill all the beans on how I scored these amazing deals. And by the end of this video, you'll be swimming in great deals too, using my 15 top secret tips and tricks. And I know this is not my usual background. I've been traveling all week for work, and now I'm visiting my in-laws. So yeah, welcome to my in-laws kitchen. But anyway, I want to get a video out every week. I'm dedicated to my loyal audience, and I figured this was a great opportunity to record this specific video. Now, I've owned a total of 50 classic coin-operated arcade machines, and I track absolutely everything about them in a very highly detailed spreadsheet. And so I know I've spent about just under $10,000 to acquire all of these games, which works out to around $200 a piece. Now, this obviously doesn't include the cost of parts and tools and all the time it's taken me to get these things back into tip-top shape, but we'll just ignore that side of things for now. Besides, I actually enjoy fixing and repairing and restoring these games even more than playing them. And yeah, anyway, in this video, we're just focused on finding and buying these games. Some of these tips and tricks might seem obvious, but I'm not just gonna tell you something you've heard a million times before. I'll actually walk you through practical steps on how to make it all work with examples from my own experiences. Plus, I'll share some techniques that you've probably never heard of before. Put it all together and you'll be finding amazing deals of your own in no time, like an Asteroids Cabaret for 100 bucks, a Food Fight Project for 200 bucks, an Outrun for 75 bucks, and a Primal Rage for free. So, and I know I'm gonna be looking down here, I've got my computer with all my notes because I wanna make sure I don't forget anything that I wanna convey to you so that you can find deals like these for yourself. So let's dive right in. These tips and tricks largely break down into 3 categories: how to find deals, how to negotiate even better deals, and what to do when you pick up a game, which can actually lead to finding even more great deals. Number 1 is be persistent. You need to be looking all the time, morning, noon, and night, for the best deals. If you want to find the best deals, you have to be looking all the time. Anytime you've got a free moment, whether you're in line at the grocery store, waiting for your coffee to brew, on hold with a cable company, waiting to pick up your kids from some sort of event, whip out that phone and check out the for sale listings that have just been posted. Speed is essential since there's often a ton of competition out there from other buyers interested in the same listings, and you don't want to miss out because you didn't check Facebook Marketplace when you got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Number 2, and this is a huge one, this really is the secret weapon, and that's networking, networking, networking. I'm sure you've heard this before, but you absolutely must build a personal network with lots of other classic arcade game collectors if you want to be able to find the best deals. This really is my not-so-secret top weapon, and I'm now at the point where a majority of the deals that I find aren't originally sourced by me personally, but from being tipped off by a friend who saw it and passed it along to me. And this, might be, it's very obvious, this tip, but sometimes it's practically hard to make it work, especially, and I get it, people in this hobby tend to be a bit more introverted, so it's hard to make friends, it's hard to make connections. I know most of us we're adults with our own lives, and it's hard to do this, and I understand. But doing it is so important, and building a network provides 2 main benefits. I just told you a moment ago that you need to be persistent in searching for deals all the time, but even if you're doing this, full-time, as a full-time job instead of just a hobby, nobody can be obsessively refreshing their saved searches on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist every minute of every day, and I get it. But once you build a network, you and your buddies can pool your compulsive behaviors, collectively searching for great deals around the clock and hooking each other up with leads when you find something that they might be looking for. Just don't be that guy who's only ever taking advantage of leads being shared by others and not pointing your friends towards great deals too. You also, and this is also important, you also want to network with non-collector people in your life, like like neighbors, like coworkers, extended family members. You want to let them know about this part of your life, right? Maybe not so much about how obsessed you are or whatever, but let them know that you're into collecting and restoring and repairing and playing classic arcade games, just in case they ever know anyone who's looking to get rid of an old game in their basement, in their garage, or whatever. You want to be the person that they call, say, hey, I know somebody that might be interested in that. So how are you supposed to build this network? That's the hard part, right? So for the normal people in your life who aren't collectors, find some opportunity to let them know that you collect arcade games. Bring it up in a conversation. Invite them over to play your game sometime. Wear an arcade-related shirt, maybe from my merchandise shop, as a conversation starter. Or keep an arcade game or some kind of collectible in the background, at your office at work or in a Zoom background. Find some way to let them know that you're into this kind of stuff. Anything to let them know and remind them to keep an eye out for games looking for a new home. In terms of networking with collectors, this is actually a little bit easier because we all share this sort of common interest, but there's a few different ways to make it happen. Find a community where you can engage and interact with people who are like you, whether that's the KLOV forums, KLOV.com, Killer List of Video Games, KLOV.com, the forums there, various Facebook groups, maybe some kind of local club or whatever. Maybe you go to an arcade, strike up a conversation with somebody there. And don't just be a lurker in those communities, right? On the KLOV forums or Facebook or whatever, or be that creepy guy that never talks to anybody at an arcade. This is very important. You need to be an active member of those communities in order to build connections. Actually interact with other people, talk to them, and then find some other way to engage with them, right? So if you've started to build friendships on Facebook or KLOV or whatever, find another way to take those conversations and continue them. Often a big one and really important way to build that relationship is with a group chat, whether that's on text messaging or Facebook Messenger or Discord or whatever. Start building that community and invite people in and grow a nice little group there. And then then it's gonna happen on its own. People will start sharing leads and whatever. Oh, I saw this on Facebook. Let them know the kinds of games that you're into. Let them know the kinds of games that you're looking for. What's already in your collection. If you find a great deal on a game that you already own, pass that along to somebody else who's looking for that same game, and that'll just start snowballing. And that's a great way to do it. Now, if that seems like too much work and you don't want to build a network, you don't want to build a community of your own, and I totally get it and can be intimidating, I've got a solution for you. I've got an easy button. Click on that join button down below and become an Overtime Arcade channel member today. You'll get into our Discord forums and join an awesome and growing community of really nice, like-minded people. And one of the big things that we do is we're constantly sharing deals all the time. Like I said, there's about 100 of us now, and we're constantly checking Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and whatever, and sharing deals with each other. We see something cool, we post it in the Marketplace channel on the Discord server. Somebody typically comes along and jumps on it, and I found a bunch of deals that way. I just got a Geo 7 tube for free from a channel member who saw it posted online and linked me to it. And it was nowhere near where I live, but I was just driving as part of this trip, grabbed it, and it's awesome. So think about becoming an Overtime Arcade channel member. Click on that join button down below. You'll learn about all the perks that come with channel membership, and one of the big ones is this Discord community, this private members-only Discord server, where a big thing that we do is we're constantly sharing deals all the time. And we're also hooking each other up, and we're looking to sell something from our own collection, something we don't need or whatever. We're hooking each other up with bro deals, right? So really think about it. It's an awesome, easy button to jump right into a great community. You get to support the channel too, and you'll benefit directly from it as well. Now, number 3 is search. Specifically, how to search and where to search and what to be searching for. How does all this searching work? Well, it's a little bit complicated. It's something you're going to develop over time, but in terms of where to look, the biggest places for me right now, and this was different years ago, but right now the top place is actually Facebook Marketplace. There's a couple different ways to do it. First, you want to have a saved search in Facebook Marketplace, and honestly, sellers on Facebook Marketplace are typically not very sophisticated. They don't know what to put in. They don't know what to write down. And I have found the best luck with just the simple one keyword search of arcade, right? And again, even that's not perfect because a lot of people just spell arcade wrong, or they'll just put the name of the game, or they'll put something else. But typically I find just searching for the word arcade in Facebook Marketplace is the best result. And Facebook Marketplace is smart enough where it'll show me listings where the word arcade just doesn't even appear in that, right? So I don't know if it's doing, computer vision and matching the images or something else or whatever, but it's going to show you arcade, listings, even if the word arcade doesn't appear in there. And so do that persistently, have that saved search, check it every single day for yourself. Put that location on where you live and set the range to max. You don't want to miss out on something. I even sometimes check other areas too. And another thing that persistent checking and clicking on listings and looking at them is going to do is it's going to tell the Facebook Marketplace recommendation algorithm, it's going to train it on what you're interested in. And often you'll just open up Facebook Marketplace and you'll see just before you even search, the recommended listings start to really be things that you're interested in. So the more you do that, the more Facebook Marketplace will learn about what you're interested in and push things to you. And also on Facebook, you want to join all the buy and sell groups, right? People will often post things there, not really on a normal marketplace listing. So all of that stuff. And I know that's obvious, but that's just sort of how it works for me. And personally, I find the interface a million times better and a million times easier to use on my phone, right? The Facebook app for Facebook Marketplace is much better. The website is just kind of a mess, so I don't even use it on my laptop. I do it all on my phone, which tends to be the best. Save listings, right? Go back and see if the price drops down over time. So anything you're remotely interested, save it for later, maybe share it with a friend. But yeah, that's how I sort of do it on Facebook Marketplace. I still buy stuff on Craigslist, although that tends to be about, maybe I've bought half a dozen games off Craigslist over the years. I still use the saved searches, the sort of very convoluted search string that John from John's Arcade came up with years ago. I'll put a copy and paste down below that you can use to create your own Craigslist searches. I'll see if I can find a link back to, I think it was on the John's Arcade forums where he originally shared this. And that's what I use on Craigslist. But I also create multiple search groups or save searches on Craigslist, different areas that I'm willing to drive through, maybe different areas that I visit, and I search them all the time. Craigslist is still a mess, right? Like even with those very specific search terms, you're only maybe 5 or 10% of the results are even going to be relevant, but it's still worth looking. You want to go through the haystack to find that needle, and Craigslist is still worth checking out, from time to time. Tip number 4 is, what are the best days to be looking for games? Well, obviously it's the weekends, right? Especially later in the day on Friday, and then early Saturday morning, early Sunday morning, kind of a similar mindset to yard sales. When do you want to go to yard sales and garage sales? People aren't doing yard sales in the middle of the night on a Tuesday, right? So think about when, if you were, clearing out stuff, doing spring cleaning, when would you be posting things online? So think, maybe Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. Those are absolutely the key times that you need to be searching. And you need to be searching all the time, but especially those times. Don't go a weekend without searching Facebook or Craigslist because you're going to miss out on something that you've been looking for. Number 5, sort of a similar tip. The early bird gets the worm, so you've got to wake up before noon, Lungs, right? So Lungs is a channel member, and there have been at least a couple of times I can remember where there was a great deal in his area that he was interested in, but he was, sleeping in on the weekends and, didn't see it. If he didn't get online until noon, and we were trying to contact him, trying to tell him about this great deal, and he didn't see it until the afternoon, and guess what? It's gone by then. So yeah, the early bird gets the worm. Wake up, set an alarm. Even if you go back to sleep, get up early Saturday morning, Sunday morning, check Facebook Marketplace real quick, and then go back to bed if you don't see anything good. And then number 6 is, be fast and don't hesitate. As soon as you see something that you might be interested in buying, even if it's a little bit farther away than maybe you're thinking about going, maybe if the price is a little bit higher than you might consider, even if you're not sure logistically if you can leave right away and go do it, you guys check with your wife, spouse, whatever. Don't hesitate, immediately reach out to the seller and say, hey, I want this, I'm interested in this, I can come right away, right? Don't hesitate to reach out to them, because by the time you hesitate, if you take 5 or 10 minutes to think about it, 5 or 10 people are already going to contact that seller and say that they want it, right? So often the first person that contacts a seller will have the best chance of getting it. And again, even if you're not sure about the price or the drive, if you can even go, get that conversation started, right? You don't want to necessarily, take it from experience, right? It's not worth, spending those brownie points with your wife, with your spouse, whatever, if you don't actually have a deal lined up, right? So don't go and ask them, hey, would it be okay with you if I went and grabbed something, right? unless you've got a deal worked out, right? Because then you're spending, you know, political capital with the most important person in your life, and then you don't actually use it. So save that powder. Actually go and get the deal done first, and then work all the details out. And if you have to back out, you have to back out. It's not the end of the world, especially when that seller is guaranteed to have 50 other people waiting in line to buy that thing. All right, the next section of tips are all about how to actually negotiate the deal. And I'm gonna start going through these a little bit faster because I think I'm taking too long. This video is getting long enough already. So negotiation, number 7 is negotiation, how to actually negotiate a deal. And I'm sure that most of you don't negotiate deals for a living. You're not in sales, you're not in marketing, you're not, you know, going after closing billion-dollar deals all the time, and I totally get it. But this hobby can actually help you with that in your professional business life, right? Get some experience buying and selling games, you know, negotiating good deals, and those skills will actually translate to the real world. Just like the skills you're developing, you know, fixing and repairing things can be applied to other things in your life. Learning how to negotiate deals in this setting can translate to buying a car or a house or whatever. So it's a great skill to hone. And yeah, I'll give you a couple tips here on how to do it. But you know, the most important thing is just talk to the person, right? Tell them you're interested, tell them you want to buy this, right? And ask them if they're flexible on the price, right? Offer them a different, you know, a slightly lower offer, you know, work with them. They're a human being. They're motivated to sell this thing too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be listing it. You're motivated to buy, and there's a way to find a win-win situation here. It's not like you're trying to beat them or they're trying to beat you. You're trying to find the best deal between the two of you to make this deal happen. Because at the end of the day, that's what both parties want. They want to get rid of this thing and get some money in return. And you've got some money you're willing to burn to get this thing that you value more than your money. And, you know, just talk to the person. I know it can be intimidating. Again, a lot of us are introverts and this stuff doesn't come naturally to us, but it's especially if you're doing it over, you know, Messenger, just reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you tell me any more about it? Get that conversation going. Unless this is a, you know, very high demand item that's already at a low price, don't beat around the bush. Just go and say, hey, I will buy it for the price that you are offering. Now, the most important thing in the negotiation for you to have is knowledge. So number 8 here is developing knowledge about the games, about what they're worth, about the market. You know, over time, you will start to accumulate knowledge just sort of naturally about these games. There's a couple different price guides that are really good. There's the Vintage Arcade Gal price guide. There's the Exity price guide. Again, these things aren't perfect, but they show you sort of kind of a reference point on, you know, what games are kind of worth. You know, sellers will often check eBay, but eBay's kind of a mess because, again, sellers are often unsophisticated. They're not selling lots of things all the time, and they just look at eBay for sale listings that are asking often just outrageous asking prices, like $3,000 for a centipede or something, and they'll think that's what the going rate is when that's not what it is. You know, and if you ever have to counter that, point them and say, hey, what have you seen in terms of closed sales, completed sales, like actually sold prices? And they're often very different than the asking price on eBay. So come with that knowledge about these games in general, what's rare, what's not rare, you know, how much, you know, effort it takes to fix certain games. Some are just really, really hard to get going. Some are easy fixes. That should calculate into, you know, you're thinking about the pricing and the negotiation. But come to that negotiating table with as much knowledge as possible, and that will only provide you with a great advantage. All right, tip number 9 is, you know, a wise man once said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And that applies to so many things in life, especially negotiating, right? The worst thing that can happen is, you know, you throw a super lowball offer at a seller and they tell you to buzz off, right? Maybe with stronger words, right? Who cares? You were never going to get it anyway. But that one time when somebody's asking, you know, some outrageous price and you say, hey, you know, if they're asking, you know, $1,000 for something that's not worth it, and you say, hey, would you take 200 bucks? Once in a while, they're going to say yes. Maybe they're desperate to sell this thing. Maybe they need the money right away. Maybe that $1,000 is just a complete shot in the dark for them. So don't ever hesitate to make a lowball offer, right? You don't want to be, you know, a jerk about it, but be in a respectful way. Say, hey, I know you're asking for this. You know, this is the best that I can do. You know, I understand this market. This is kind of a fair offer here. And if you don't want it, no big deal. But throw them that lowball offer, and the worst thing they can do is say no. And by the way, that $200 offer is another sort of my off-the-table secret, right? Often, most people will throw a lowball and it's 100. It seems like a nice round number, whatever. But if you offer 200 when everyone else is offering 100, and this game is worth even more, especially once you get it all fixed up and working, you're gonna win that negotiation. So yeah, like I said, if everyone else out there is offering 100 bucks, because that's a nice round number, and you're the one person offering 200, your offer is gonna stick out from the crowd and you're gonna get that deal. Okay, tip number 10 is be prepared to leave right away. When you contact that seller, tell them, I'll come right away with everything I need to load this and get it out of your house, plus cash, and I'll bring cash, I will pay you in cash. Not, unless they want it a different way, if they want PayPal or Venmo or a check or whatever, that's totally fine, up to the seller. But usually cash is king, especially if somebody's looking for money, right away, they're trying to get rid of something. Plus cash is a one-way transaction. There's no way for you to, recover that, right? Which is a little bit risky for you, but so you don't want to hand that cash over until you know that that game is what, as it was described, and what you're picking up is the real McCoy. So, often cash, a cash offer, just like when you're buying a house, a cash offer will, outweigh an offer with, some other kind of recourse for you to recover it, or some weird technology or whatever that the seller might understand. So be prepared to come right away, hop right in your car, throw the furniture dolly or the hand truck and all the tarps and blankets and ratchet straps and everything that you need. Be ready to go right away with cash in hand, and you'll often beat out somebody else that says, hey, I want to buy this. Can I pick it up a week from Tuesday? Right? You want to be able to get right in the car and go right away. Tip number 11 is be willing to travel pretty far. So I've gone up to 500 miles each way, so 1,000 miles round trip to pick up games that I really wanted. I know folks like Liam and Sam from Retro Robotics. They've driven 1,000 miles each way to get games that they want. And I'm not saying that it's something you're going to do all the time, but cast a wide net. Look around all the time. Look around everywhere, anywhere that you're possibly willing to drive. And if you find that good deal that's really compelling, that might be worth taking that trip. Maybe you make a vacation out of it. Bring your family, go sightseeing or something, but your real ulterior motive is getting that game. If you're like me and you travel for work every now and then, right? Drive instead of flying, right? If it's practical to do so, and then you can search a broader area and bring things home on your way back. And then going back to that network, right? Have all those other people in your community looking for games for you, and you can often work out some sort of underground railroad of freight shipping. Shipping these things can be really expensive, often more than the cost of the game itself, especially if you're buying broken, dilapidated projects like me. But if you've got a friend in an area, maybe they can grab it and hold on to it for you until maybe a month or two when you're in their area and you can pick it up for them, or maybe you can meet up halfway. Maybe you grab something for them and make a handoff. I've done that multiple times. That's another really secret about having a network. People grabbing games for each other and helping them out to avoid shipping. Often the cheapest way to ship something is with Fastenal, but that requires the shipper to do all the work to palletize and wrap and everything and drop it off at a Fastenal terminal. And typically, sellers who aren't doing this on a regular basis don't understand Fastenal, don't want to go through that hassle, but maybe you've got a buddy that's done it before and they're willing to do it for you. So again, another reason to have that network, because that can extend your range even more beyond the 500 or 1,000 miles where you're willing to drive yourself. Tip number 12 is another big one, and that's be willing to buy broken stuff that no one else is willing to touch, right? So again, a big part of this hobby and a huge focus of this channel is not just playing games. We're not just buying perfectly working games to add to our collection, right? No, we're gonna buy junk, completely broken junk that doesn't work, that hasn't worked in decades, is just taking up space in the seller's house, and we're gonna bring those things back to life. We're gonna invest all our toil and tears and sweat and blood into this stuff to bring it back to life, to get it back into tip-top shape. And that's a huge way to save money here. If you're trying to buy perfectly working games, you're often gonna be spending maybe thousands of dollars. You're basically gonna be paying retail for the result of someone who's done all the work to restore this game. And that's just, unless you're swimming in money, which is great, the way to do this on a budget is to buy broken stuff. That's often how I get things for free, for next to nothing, 50, 75, 100 bucks. It's because these people are like, I just want this out of my house. It hasn't worked for years. I don't know anything about them. Get rid of them. And that's how you can score great deals, buying broken junk, right? Teach yourself, learn how to fix these things, how to work on cabinets, do the woodworking repair, fix the wiring, fix the electrical power stuff, fix the electronics, the game boards and the monitors and everything. You'll have a ton of fun in the process. The game that you have at the end will be so much more meaningful to you because you've invested so much effort into it, and you'll save a ton of money in the process. So yeah, buy broken, dilapidated, completely trashed projects and then bring them back to life, and you'll save a ton of money. You won't save time, you'll be investing a lot of time in it, but you'll save some dollars for sure. Okay, we're down to the last couple of tips and tricks here, and the last three are all about what to do when you actually show up and you're actually interacting with the seller in person and picking up the game. Number 13, this very, very important question that you always need to ask, especially once everything is loaded on the truck maybe, or at least dragged out to the driveway. Maybe you've handed off the cash already, but a very important question ask them after you've completed the transaction essentially is, do you have anything else for sale, right? Ask them, let me repeat this, do you have anything else for sale? This is so important. They might say, hey, I didn't think about it, but I actually have another game, or actually, no, I've got a spare monitor. Do you just want that, right? Let them know that you're interested in other things too. Especially you are right there. They know you are, they don't have to worry about you showing up. They don't have to worry about you, not having money or whatever. When you're there and you say, do you have anything else for sale? You will find often great things. Like, I've been thinking about listing this other game. Would you be interested in this too? Or I've got whatever, right? I got my, Tetris cocktail, my Dynamo HS6 with an Atari Tetris working PCB inside of it for $50 because I was buying other stuff from the seller. And as we were loading it up, I said, hey, do you have anything else you want to get rid of? And they're like, well, let's go check out my shed. And they had a bunch of other stuff, and this was the thing that I wanted. And they're like, and I asked how much they want. They're like, well, what would you give me for it? And I said $50, and they took it. So always ask the seller, do you have anything else for sale? Number 14 really kind of reiterates the knowledge tip from above. Sellers often have no idea what they've got. Maybe this is the only game they've ever had. They don't know anything about them. You want to have that knowledge asymmetry, right? I'm not talking about taking advantage of people. I'm not talking about ripping off little old ladies that don't know what they have, but your knowledge is your advantage in this negotiation, in this pickup. So if you get there, a big part of this is don't try to fix a game at the seller's house. If they're selling a non-working game, don't try to fix it while they're there, because if you fix it and you've done that for free, they might say, hey, now that it's a working game, why don't you give me $500 instead of $200, right? And you don't want to be in that situation. So don't try to fix it. If the game is, if the seller is claiming that the game is working, let them turn it on to show that it's working, right? Like it was in the listing. But other than that, don't try to fix it. Don't try to do anything. If you see something wrong, don't try to fix it. And just to reiterate, I am not talking about ripping off little old ladies. I'm talking about coming with as much knowledge as you can bring to bear to the negotiating table and to the sale. You're also going to know how to load this game up, how to wrap it properly, how to take care of it and transport it safely. So again, do your homework, do your research, watch lots of videos, understand how to do this, and don't try to fix a game at a seller's house. And number 15 is circle back with the seller. So this is after you've gone home, after everything's done, send them a note and say, hey, just wanted to say thanks again. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna, enjoy this for years, whatever. And then also ask them, hey, let me know if you ever encounter anything else that you want to get rid of. If you have something else you decide to sell, maybe they've got a collection and they're just starting to part it out and you've got the first thing that they've gotten rid of. You want to get first dibs if they decide they want to sell something else, or if they ever know anyone, right? I've often been loading a game in seller's driveway or in the street, and a neighbor will come over and say, hey, I've got a pinball machine. Would you ever be interested in that? And I give them my number and they reach out, and I actually pass that deal along to other people. But circle back to that seller afterwards and say thank you, and then say, hey, if there's anything else you ever want to sell, this kind of goes back to number 13, but it's after the sale, after the transaction. Circle back with them, thank them, and let them know that you're interested if they ever, or they or anyone they know ever has anything else they want to sell. All right, and that does it. 15 of my top secret tips and tricks. I know a lot of these are probably obvious, but you need to think about how to actually do it and how to make it happen. You put all these things together, and I guarantee you'll start to get more deals, especially things like building that network or joining an existing network and learning how to negotiate and interact with sellers. And yeah, so let me know how this works for you. Have you ever used any of these tips? Leave me a comment down below. What's the best deal you've ever gotten? Have any of these ever worked really well for you or not worked so well? Do you have any other tips that I've forgotten about, right? There's probably other things that are kind of flying through my head right now. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video sometime, based on some of the tips and tricks y'all have left down below. But yeah, I think that'll about do it. Please do all the things that YouTube wants you to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things that really helps with the algorithm. And yeah, I guess that'll do it. I got to get out of my in-laws' kitchen. As always, thanks for watching Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!